Good morning, Morro Bay. Welcome to the City of Morro Bay Tourism Business Improvement District Advisory Board meeting. We've got a full agenda, and I'd just like to thank everyone in the audience for being here, participating, helping out. I'd like to thank our board for being here today. From my right, I have Taylor Newton. I've got Stephen Allen. I've got Sean Green, Maggie Jurin, and Ken Clark. So thank you all for being here this morning. First up, I'd like to say we've got any board member announcements? Any staff announcements? Any public comment out there?
Wait, you go too fast.
Staff announcement, thank you.
I do have an announcement. Chairman Graves has resigned. Unfortunately, his Cambria hotel is just consuming too much time, so he felt it was necessary for him to resign. And so at the April meeting, we will put it on the agenda, and we will elect a new chairman. And this actually works out perfectly because it's time for us to elect a new chair and vice chair anyway. As far as his seat that is open, the city clerk's office will soon be putting out that notice, and that's for a 22-room or smaller hotelier. Okay?
Thanks, Jen.
Yep.
Okay. Consent agenda. Has everyone had a chance to look and review the minutes? Are there any corrections or changes? Okay. If not, we're just going to approve as submitted, correct? There's no public comment, but I wish there was.
I have a staff comment. So marketing coordinator Shannon McAllister is here today, and she's going to start presenting the marketing PR report every month from Mental Marketing. This month it is on the consent agenda because I thought the 6-month review would take quite a while. But she'll be here every month to present that, and she can answer questions as well. Okay?
Okay. Looks like we are up for just receive and file. What else? What else we got cooking? I think we can. How do you all feel, board? I think I've looked at them all. Has everyone had a chance to review everything?
Does this include the 6-month review report? Okay.
Consent items.
Okay.
I entertain a motion.
So moved.
I second.
Okay. Yeah.
We've got Ken as a motion to approve the consent agenda, and
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions?
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Jen, you're up.
Okay, let's go over the TOT report for January, the year-over-year report that's in your packet. It was kind of an interesting month. I mean, I think the biggest thing was Highway 101 closing in Santa Barbara. It closed on the 9th of January, and it was closed until the 21st, pretty significant amount of time. And unfortunately, it was right ahead of the Winter Bird Festival, so that really made it difficult. Our marketing firm immediately changed our buy and moved some things around so that we could really go after people in the southeast LA area as well as the Valley and into Northern California as well. And we picked right back up. So I'm really happy to see that our overall January TOT did not go down. I mean, if you look at our surrounding cities, I think we're pretty solid. So our occupancy was 46%. Last year it was 44%, and the ADR did drop by $1. It's $91 versus last year was $92, and the RevPAR was up $42 versus $41 last year. Looking at the competitive set, if you look on the top left of your schedule there, that's the STAR report with the competitive set. Looking at the coastal cities, specifically Highway 1, Cambria was down over 3%, which is very significant. San Simeon, of course, down, which is still reasonable with what they are facing. And then North Coast overall was down 2% as well. So, like I said, I'm glad that we held. I really feel that was mainly due to the fact that we reacted very quickly when 101 closed, and we moved significant media around for that. Can I answer any questions on it?
I'd say the weather had a lot to do with that as well.
Yeah, we were very lucky with weather.
Yeah. So, Jen, I had some questions looking at this. Like, if I look at the ADR, both last year and this, well, we don't have last year's, yeah, I guess we do. Why, I see that ours is the lowest in the county if you look at that, our rates are. And yet we pay the highest into the highest T-bid. You know, our T-bid assessment is higher than anybody else in the county. Do you have any explanation for that?
So as far as the pay-in, that was obviously voted in by hotels.
Right.
As far as the ADR, one of the most significant things on ADR, what it affects is our hotel stock and our lack of increased rooms or upgraded rooms. Mm-hmm. So that really significantly hurts us as a town as a whole.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
So honestly, in Maggie, until we get upgraded rooms or a new hotel coming in, we're not going to see that ADR move.
Got it. Okay.
I don't think. Does any other board member have an opinion, Stephen, or
yeah.
other hoteliers?
I can comment that, competition's fierce in Morro Bay, and we do look at our comp set, and a lot of us follow leads by other hotels and try to figure out what the market can bear and push to those limits. But we're also, working with a lot of budget properties here in Morro Bay, and that is in some ways to our benefit. I know that we have a lot to offer, but we do need some upgraded properties.
I'd second that, and I think supply and demand has a lot to do with the basic economics. There's just so many hotel rooms in Morro Bay, requires advertising, higher T-bid, etc. So,
And then one other question I was just trying to correlate is if I look at the occupancy rate and I see it went up 2%, but I look at the chart up in the upper right-hand corner where it looks like over year, it was about a $25,000 increase, right? Is that accounted for in that 2% increase in occupancy? Do you guys follow what I'm saying?
It should be. Let me just review. If you go on the sheet that comes from the treasurer's office, this sheet, this is the actual numbers that she publishes on the 5th, and it's usually 100% accurate unless she has a hotel that just has not reported on time.
Oh, got it.
So that does not, it shows the occupancy, but it doesn't show the ADR. So we extrapolate from that onto our report is what we do in our office.
Okay. Yeah.
It should be correct.
Yeah, and it looks like from a number standpoint.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, okay. I was just trying to understand the thing.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, we're going to proceed on to the updated year in review. Call for public comment. I see a fine guest in the. Do you have any public comment today?
No, I'm okay. Thank you.
Seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you.
I'm going to recommend that we move on to item B3 first, only because I think it will be a fairly quick process. This is the contract that we've been talking about for the website, and then we'll come back to the 6-month review. The reason why I want to do that is I really want to spend as much time as we can on the 6-month review and whatever questions you want to answer. So I'd like to make sure this gets dealt with first so we don't run out of time, if you're all okay with that. So looking at the, this is the contract to rebuild morrobay.org. We've talked about this the last few months. Where we sit with it now is we're ready to move forward with SimpleView if you so recommend it to City Council. There's 2 different contracts that we would like to do. The one is the build, and then the other one is the monthly maintenance on it. Same thing that we presented last month. Unfortunately, my mistake on how I wrote the staff report, so it has been changed. We are taking it to City Council for approval. That'll go on the 27th of March, so it'll go pretty quickly here. And that's strictly just, we want to do that just from budget terms. You know, the city's really financially watching money right now. And this sits pretty close to the threshold of where usually the city manager would take it to City Council for approval. That's $50,000. And so we are going to take it to them for final approval.
But Jennifer, so I thought there was some dependency on you looking at the budget to say that we could even go that route. Am I correct in that?
That has been cleared.
Okay,
So
good. Okay.
there was a dollar amount that I was holding for a co-op, which I'm using for this, that I would put over to this instead of doing any more co-ops with the county at this time. I just think this is more important to get done.
Jen, when we were looking at last time we talked about this, we were looking at the timeline in the year. It seemed like we were going to be short in the timeline for them to get the work done. If we awarded the contract today to who we're probably going to award it to, do they have enough time to get it done before the deadline with our current contractor? Because I think it's October we pushed the contract, we extended the contract for our current contractor. According to my math, we were about a month shy.
Taylor, Moby Manage has been very good about it, and they have no problem with us extending month at a time. So I'm not concerned at all about that part of it.
So that was
And
my
it's
concern.
minimal money, yeah.
Was I didn't want to extend it. I was hoping that we
Totally
could.
agree.
I wanted us to meet the current contract that we have. I mean, it's October, and it was the amount of time that the new contractor needed. They would have made it if we would have approved it at the previous meeting, but we didn't. So now we're going to be a month behind. So will they possibly be able to get it done in a shorter amount of time so that we don't have to extend our contract with Moby Management? Is that a possibility? That's
I
my
can
question.
ask. I
Good.
surely can ask, of course.
Yeah, I would like them
Of
to. I
course.
mean, especially since their costs, we've met our budget costs, according to what Maggie just asked you, and they're the best, as we're
Yeah.
proposing. Maybe they could get it done so that we don't have to pay more money to somebody that we don't want to pay money to.
I think the key on that will be getting it back to you guys, getting approval on designs as fast as we can. So that's one of the questions is, do we want to form a subcommittee with hoteliers? I would say yes, but it needs to be a very efficient committee, maybe just 4 or 5 at the most, and really get it moving and get it back up to T-bid for approval.
So I guess, so from what you're telling me then, as we move forward with this, could we include that as part of our discussion, that everybody knows at city council, subcommittees or whatever, that time is of the essence? We don't want to spend more money on something that we don't want to spend money on. I mean, we need our money. I mean,
Of
we need our
course.
money for advertising.
Of course, and I will make sure that's part of my staff report for city council.
And so we could feasibly put forth a motion that awards this contingent on them finishing the project by the previous month, and put it out there so that there's, I mean, we have the leverage here. We're selecting them as the vendor. Can we write some language in like that so that it does happen instead of that we hope that it happens?
I can present that, Sean. I can't guarantee that without talking with them first,
Sure.
but of course I can present that,
Okay.
yeah.
And
I'm all for getting it done quick.
I was going to say we run the risk of doing something too fast and not doing it well. And I'm with you. I'm with you guys, but I think that it's important that this site be as the best it can be. And so if we rush it, it could turn out not being the best. So we really need a chance to review it, and it's going to be contingent on us. And I'd like to see a few of us right here say, you know what, I want to review this thing, get it done as fast as we can. And we put the pressure on them and see how they can perform. As a new client, I think that they'll be open to helping us fast track it. But again, I don't want to rush just in the point of just to get it done. I think it needs to be perfect. So
I agree, Charlie. I also think once the beta site is up and running, you guys being active with that as fast as possible and getting back to me what things are not working is really key so that we can keep that beta site moving until it's complete. If we don't get response back on the beta site and then we go live and we're having problems, it's a world of a mess.
Do we need, so as we go through this process, are we going to need like public comment from the hotel industry and stuff like that to move forward with the website and stuff? Are they going to be reviewing it, or is this beta site open to their review also, or is it just us?
So I would recommend that we form a subcommittee of hoteliers to review conceptually how the site looks. And then once the beta site is up, I'll email it out to all the hoteliers for their input, of course.
So it's not just the contractor. It's not just us. It's not just city council. It's also the hotel industry. We all need to get on this and get this done. So it's a big team effort here.
It's a huge team effort, but me emailing it out to hotels, if they don't respond, Taylor, I'm not going to stop because they haven't responded.
We're in the process of building a website for a nonprofit, and it's a little bit like herding cats when you have so many people who are emailing their comments and their specifics. So we also want to be cognizant that that process could slow it down. To opening it up to multiple people for their comments, everyone has their own opinion of colors and shapes and size of what they're going to show on the site. So again, we want to do it right. And I think that it's really going to be contingent, again, on us and our subcommittee to make those recommendations to get it done correctly. So I think we're looking for a motion.
Yeah, just one more thing. I just want to mention one more thing about Moby Manage and this extension of their contract. It runs like $500 a month. And I know that is good money, but at the same time, it's not worth rushing it. So if we have to go over a month, Taylor, it doesn't give me a huge amount of angst.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was that little.
So at this point, Jen, we are looking to make a motion.
I'm looking for a motion, and if we're going to create a subcommittee, I need to have 2 board members on that subcommittee. If we don't have 2 board members, then we'll just call it a committee, not a subcommittee. Okay?
Can I ask you a quick question on
Yes.
that? So Maggie was on the previous subcommittee as you guys reviewed this, right? I would really like you to be on the next one.
And although Taylor is not a hotelier, I think that he would be, I don't know what your time is, but
I don't have any time.
Okay.
Is there another board member
We're
that
gonna
would
have
like
you review it
to
anyway.
volunteer to be on the subcommittee?
Yeah, I'll volunteer.
Okay, great, Sean. So Sean and Maggie will be on the subcommittee, and then I will also pull a few hoteliers as well. So do you want to make a motion? Somebody? On the first page, there's the recommendation that you can, literally just read through it. It has the 2 different contracts, but plus additionally the subcommittee with board members Maggie and Sean. So we just need a motion with that recommendation on it.
Jennifer, I've just got a question real quick. When you said pull hoteliers to be on the subcommittee, I just think you need a clear infrastructure of the timeline of this. As Charlie said, you're going to get 100 different opinions. So are we going to give the hoteliers a certain amount of time to give comment, and then it ultimately goes back to the subcommittee to make the decision?
So 2 different things there. So the subcommittee, the hoteliers that I will reach out to, I will make sure that they are very active on the internet right now, so that I have hoteliers that really actively want to see this site change and grow, and I have some specific people in mind. As far as once the beta site is up and running and I email out to all the hotels, what they'll really be looking at is their main listings and how their hotel interacts on the site. And I will definitely set a timeline on when they need to respond, and if they don't, it'll go live anyway. Yeah,
So we would give them a deadline.
absolutely, for sure.
We are looking for a motion.
Okay. I make a motion that we move forward with selecting Simple View as our...
You want to make a recommendation to City Council?
Oh, yes, sorry. Thank you. My motion is that we make a recommendation to City Council that Simple View be the vendor selected to build our new morrowbay.org website, and that in order to assist them along with our staff, that we have form a subcommittee made up of 2 board members and other hoteliers.
Do you also want to make a recommendation on the 3-year CMS and
in
CRM
addition to
contract?
that, I would like to recommend to the board, to the council, that we also adopt the 3-year contract for management of the CMS, the content management system, and customer relationship management system.
So if you agree with staff's recommendation, just to be real clear, unless you want to change the wording.
Oh, okay. So, okay, let's start over.
Don't start capturing it all. Page 2 of the
Oh, okay, sorry.
end for a second, and then you
I'm not seeing that. Oh, on this, on the, okay. No. Okay. So just read this recommendation, right? Okay. Okay, so I make a motion that we forward a recommendation to City Council to award the contract for rebuilding of the morrowbay.org website to Simpleview as the vendor with 2 contracts as approved to form by the city attorney. Number 1, rebuild morrowbay.org starting April 2018 to be finished between September and October 2018, and also to award them a 3-year contract for monthly content management system and customer relationship management system management of the site beginning fiscal year 2018-19.
Maggie, would you want to add that we give a deadline for any kind of public comment so we can keep the process moving
Okay.
for the subcommittee?
And we would also recommend that there be included a deadline for all feedback during this process to ensure that the process moves along to meet our stated dates of completion.
Great. Looking for a second.
Second.
We have the motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Thank you.
But now we did not include in that the subcommittee, so now we need to do a second. Okay. Okay, and I would also, so I recommend that we also form a subcommittee made up of 2 of the TBID board members as well as hoteliers, 2 to 3 hoteliers that would work throughout this process with the vendor to ensure that the deadlines are met and the site works out or looks as we want it to be. And I would recommend that myself and Sean Green be the TBID board members.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move back to B2, updated year in review 6-month report. Jennifer.
Okay, so thank you for mixing this up a little bit. So my intention of putting the 6-month review on the agenda today is strictly because you guys, we didn't really have a lot of discussion. Obviously, it was an open meeting and there was a lot of people here, and so I want to just walk through it on a very brief side, and I'm just looking for really good discussion from all of you, just so you kind of understand the process of how this all kind of goes down. This is the 6-month review, and it's really to make sure that our budget is tracking right, that we're still happy with our KPIs and how we're looking for the year. In the April meeting, we'll have to have the annual report for you to approve, so it goes to City Council to re-adopt the TBID for the next year. So this is kind of the interim process of what happens next. What I really use this 6-month report for is to guide myself and the marketing firm on starting to build next year's plan. So I'm looking for thoughts, ideas, what you've heard from other hoteliers on what's worked, hasn't worked, anything you want to tell me. I'm totally open to hear. And we're in a kind of an odd spot because we're also reviewing our agency, so we don't know who our agency will be come July 1. So I don't have a comfort level at this point having Metal Marketing start on the marketing plan for next year. But at least I can get all this information gathered so that when we get there, we can move quickly on it. Okay? Yeah.
I had a brief comment. I'm not in the hotel industry yet, but during that meeting, it became really apparent to me that something that I've been thinking about for some time since the new TBID form has been made, and we have the city staff running it and stuff. There are so many requests and feedback and public involvement, our involvement. I mean, we all make so many requests of our city staff. And I realized from a personal point of view that, like, I make some requests and I want them to be fulfilled by the staff, but at the same time, everything we add on your guys' agenda decreases the amount of time you have to get your work done. And the bottom line is that we want to maximize your efficiency because that's how we're making more money. I mean, we want more people to get in town. So something I've been thinking about a lot is staffing. And maybe this isn't the appropriate time, but it does have to relate to this report and everything. I just feel like I would really like to see more staffing or more full-time staffing with our staff. And it's something that I've been thinking about, and that meeting became apparent to me. I was watching people in the audience and these requests they were making, like Joan Solu's request to have the numbers in a certain form. I was watching that, I was thinking, like, well, if Jennifer did that, how much time would it take her to make her own separate report just for Joan Solu? And if she did that to make her happy, because I want to make Joan Solu happy. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, and I love watching Joan Solu work. Like, her and John, they do such a great job, I think. And I want to make everyone happy, but we can't do that without staff. So I would like us, at the end of this meeting, I would propose for us to talk at some point of how can we increase our staffing, because we only have one full-time staff member, Jen. Everybody else is part-time, right? And I mean, if we're the most important moneymaker for the city, shouldn't we have full staffing? Right?
So it does go partly in this, and I think as we go through the 6-month report, I'll show you some things specifically, Taylor, that we have kind of had to fall off of because of staff time. As far as staffing goes, it's something that the city manager and I do talk about frequently. And as you guys, I'm sure you know, the city is really financially tight, and they're watching their budgets pretty tightly. I think that we'll have to agendize this as a very specific item, probably with our new budget. When I get the new budget is when we'll look at this, and I'll bring it back to you guys as an agenda item, okay? So I'm hoping it'll be April is my intention.
I get to have a pulpit here. I get to have
Totally.
a microphone.
You're
And so
good.
if I want to talk about this every single time, I can do that. And I think it's really important that we have full staffing to get all these requests done, because we are the moneymaker for this city. I mean, TOT is our future.
Right. Now, remember, as far as the resolution goes, it clearly outlines that the accounting and budgets, that all goes through the city treasurer office. So it's
I'm
not
totally
just my
aware.
time, it's also Jen Calloway's office time, and does she have the staffing for
And
that?
my point is that I can't force anybody to do anything, but I can take this mic and I can be belligerent and do whatever I want to do on the mic. And I want us to win, and I think staffing is important for us to win.
We're all drinking the same Kool-Aid, so we're good.
Well, on the flip side of that, I heard from multiple hoteliers that were saying, why are we even doing this 6-month budget? So we're putting a lot on staff's plate for a report that seemed to have mixed reviews and mixed value in general. So it might be worth a long-term look at why we don't just go back to an annual report, possibly in the September-October range. And this is not just me, this is multiple hoteliers as well, that were both confused by the numbers and unsure of the value of the meeting and the report. So oftentimes staff gets increased number of requests anytime information is presented to the public. So, to use the website as a really nice example, we don't want to give infinite options to the public. We want to have 1 or 2 or 3 things that they could provide feedback on, and every new report or budget that we put out there is just subject to potential ridicule. So maybe we just need to kind of justify the existence of this meeting and this report.
I'll talk to that for a few minutes. So the 6-month report, like I said, it's really make sure I'm tracking with my budget and make sure I'm not over budgeting for the year. That's what it's really about. As far as an annual report, we do have to do one. It's kind of an odd thing. You'll see the annual report that comes out next month. It's very vague, to be honest. It's like a 2-page document and basically shows the budget for next year, the planned budget, and some new implemented items that we'll do, and that's really to go to City Council to approve TBIT into the next year. What to me is really important is after the year closes that we review the whole year as a whole. So we work on fiscal, where I think the old annual report was done through December 31st, and that might be part of the confusion when it was 501c to city department. City department works on fiscal, so that might have been part of the problem as well.
Well, if everyone works on fiscal, which is what seems to be the case, except maybe individual hoteliers, why not have accurate numbers in October and run an annual report then, and then we have complete documentation around December, January, so that we're 3 months ahead of the schedule on city approvals? You see what I'm saying? As opposed
I
to
do.
being in April and reviewing a document that had some mistakes last month, and we've kind of updated them, and then just timeline-wise, it just seems to make so much sense.
So we have to do the April one to reapprove TBID and have another year of TBID, period. I mean, that's just required by law.
And I'm saying, why doesn't the April meeting include the annual report from the previous fiscal year with projections, possible projections for this 6 months, so that we have accurate numbers and we're approving based on an actual fiscal year?
I'll have to talk with Jen Calloway's
Okay.
office about it.
Jennifer, if I
Yeah.
could just chime in real quickly. What I got from the annual meeting is that people weren't necessarily asking for more information. They were asking for clarification of information. So maybe the answer is just, to simplify
Yeah.
things. And, I know at least with our company's bookkeeping, we're doing it every month anyway to stay up on top of it. So I think if we just get on the same page of what people want and simplify it going forward, that would solve a lot of problems.
Okay. Any other opening thoughts? We're off to a good start. Nothing? Okay, so let's go through some of the things that I want to talk about. Our overview, as all of you know, the same thing. Obviously, we want to help with events. I think we did a really good job with that last year, and I'll go into specific events in a few pages. Group business, increased compression is very important, and also a difficult segment since we don't have a lot of meeting or convention space. Overnight stay and occupancy midweek is obviously priority number one to me, and then working together with all of our retailers and restaurants in town. So goals and objectives, this is kind of what I want to talk about and see your opinion and thought. Is there anything I'm missing in here? Looking at goals and objectives for next year, increase occupancy revenues, create opportunities for sales tax increase, which I think we do through our passports and through some of our other events that we do here in town. Extending the number of stays, I really want to get higher beyond 1.5, and I think that's just going to grow with time as we better our brand and better the name of Morro Bay. And hopefully with our new website, we'll see that change, I'm hoping. Domestic and international destination. I would love to hear from you guys. I've seen a lot of drop-off international travelers, that the people that come for 5 and 10 days, they're just postponing those trips with Highway 1 closed. They're saying Highway 1 will be open in September. I don't know. Do you know anything new on that? No?
I know that they're working constant. I mean, it's crazy the amount of trucks they're hauling past my job site. And I also know that we have a ton of international travelers that are still totally confused. I mean, the amount of people that stop and ask me every day, how do I get to Monterey on Highway 1? And I have to tell them you have to go back to 46. It's crazy. So it is a huge impact. And besides the people that aren't coming, you still have a ton of tourists that have no idea what's going on until they get on Highway 1 and get up there. And so, that's just a benchmark of what's happening right now and how frustrating that is. And for me, I think the scary thing for me as I watched this happen, because I didn't realize how bad it was until all these people kept pulling over on the side of the road where I'm working and asking me how to get there. What are the long-term effects of that? You know what I mean? Like, if I'm on a trip with my family and I have enough money to go to this site once, twice maybe, and that happens, how frustrating that is. I mean, it's just such a drag. So, I hope that they get it done as fast as possible, and it seems that they're working their butts off, but I know that they're ahead of schedule because of the dry winter. These recent rainstorms don't help, but that minor slide we had was only rocks. It wasn't mud, so I didn't hear anything about the schedule being postponed.
And, in general, it's almost scary to hang your hat on Highway 1 because, with this little rain, they had a small new slide. So I think this is our future. So what I would like to see us do is really, begin to shift our advertising and all off of that. And again, look at people who can come down Highway 46 and Highway 41. I know we'll get to it later as far as not targeting Northern California as much in our advertising, but I think we might want to rethink that because we are losing our international traveler and no, they could get that fixed and we could have another rainy winter and we're back in the same boat. So I'd really like to see our efforts begin to try to shift away from depending on that.
And she makes a great point. I mean, it's not just rainy weather. I mean, look at what happened to Santa Barbara because of the Thomas Fire and then because of the flash flood. I mean, the environment here in California on the coast is erratic, and what happens to us on the coast drastically affects our tourism industry. I think, what was it, a 26% drop for Santa Barbara County? I mean, their ad increase on Pandora is crazy right now. I didn't even know that was the Riviera of the California until I heard that on Pandora every single 5 minutes.
From a logistical standpoint, just to repeat something that I heard from multiple people at the meeting, that regarding goals and objectives, we're going to save it for later, but because we brought it up, the kind of elimination of the Bay Area as a focus, people were concerned that never went by the board or anything, and we just kind of decided somehow that money is diverted away from the Bay Area, when in reality, the vast majority of people are coming down 101, not Highway 1, so there was some concern about that, and why favor Fresno, Bakersfield at that price point as opposed to Bay Area people. So that's just, I heard from two people.
I'll get into more details when we get to that, Sean, because I do have some thoughts on that. But just to go back to, I want to talk about international travelers and these goals and objectives. So what Visit California and Visit USA is saying is that the largest drop-off they've seen is the German travelers. That they are not coming, and that's strictly from our current political situation, that they've just taken those trips off the books completely. Trips from Mexico have not dropped off, which is shocking with what's going on down there. There's still an active consumer coming into California, which I'm thrilled about. I think this is one of those items that we should star for the marketing plan agency for next year is what do we do to help recapture these people when they are ready to come back? Not to spend a huge amount of money on it, but obviously Visit California, Visit USA, they spend the huge dollars. That's their responsibility. But like when they get to our website, is there anything in different languages? I mean, is there small stuff we can do that would not be financially huge on us as a group, but would help impact international travelers? I think we need to look at that, and our agency needs to look at that.
So you're saying that we have a drop-off in international travelers because of our current presidency?
From Germany specifically. They were very specific, yeah.
So couldn't we address that with advertisements and being like California's, it seems like we could address, if they're concerned about our presidency, couldn't we address that we are California? I mean, it seems like we could advertise upon that. We could market, that would be, instead of looking at it as a losing point, we can make it as a positive point. I mean, if they're unhappy with our presidency, why can't they celebrate it being California in this presidency? I mean, look what California's doing with the current president situation.
Right. So that's far outside my budget, Taylor. But I totally agree with you, and I know Visit California and Visit USA are very active with that. When it gets down to my level, like one of the things that I'm doing, it's not Germany specific, but Visit California's Netherlands office, we are hosting here. They're staying here in April for 2 nights. We're going to have them go out and golf and spend the whole 2 days in Morro Bay and really understand us as a destination. So we're trying to do our little bit of workaround, and I don't have the money to but I totally agree. Yeah.
One thing I can see is the shining star here is the emerging Chinese market, and recently the Go West Summit was key to that. And I think that again, it's education. It's our international partners need to know about Morro Bay, and we need to continue to do our part to grow relationships, especially in the Asian market that is really emerging right now. Visit California and Visit SloCal is really pushing hard on this, and I think that it is key to growing our occupancy and our length of stay.
Absolutely. And Visit California's number one international market now is India. So they've really increased their buy. They went from 500,000 this year. Next year it's 800,000. So they're really actively going after it. It's a market that has huge dollars, and they're looking for unusual situations. So it doesn't have to be a standard hotel. And so it actually might play really well into our market. They're looking for unusual, maybe they stay at a hotel, but maybe the wedding is at like a really cool house that they can rent or an estate. They're looking for stuff like that, and they're very much of the mindset of, I want to outdo my friend that had his daughter's wedding here last year. And so they always want to spend more money. So if somebody spends $500,000 on a wedding, his friend's going to spend $1 million. And I went to a daily lecture while I was at Outlook, and this is all they talked about was India, and it was just fascinating. And it's a long-term process. It's nothing we're going to see tomorrow, but I'm thrilled they're getting into that market. I think it'll be really strong for us. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else? Any other thoughts on marketing goals? So strategy-wise, we've already gone into a lot of this midweek business, keep growing and developing events. Obviously, that's going to play into where our budget sits this next year because those are mainly funded by general funds, and we'll talk about that a little more. So new email campaign, we implemented that, and we'll see how that goes. But these are just some of the things that we're doing strategy-wise to try to grow our market. So let's talk about go ahead. Turn on your mic, Maggie.
The fourth one down, working closely with permit departments to reach out and capture hotel stays. I don't understand that.
Sure. So all of the permits for Morro Bay go through the rec department. So whether you're having a wedding here or you're having a family reunion or you're filming here and you need a permit for filming on the street. So last year I was uninvolved in that, and now I receive a copy of every permit that comes through, and we actively reach out to those people. So that's been a huge help. So I'm getting in front of those people before they're already booking their rooms. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the target profiles. This was part of what the board approved last year, Sean, just so you are aware. And so we do reach out to the Bay Area. I don't want you to think that we do not reach out to the Bay Area. The position was the paid media was not into the Bay Area, only from an expense side. And I do want to go ahead and put some money back in there and see if we can move the needle. I'd like to start that immediately. So I'll go ahead and talk with Metal Marketing about doing that right away and just see if we see an increase. So the biggest thing on here is I want to talk about the groups. I mean, it's a difficult market for us because we don't have meeting convention space, so we try to be creative. We try to be really creative with groups. And I mean, any thoughts you guys can have, it's just a really difficult situation for us not having full, meeting space.
Well, it seems like we do pretty well with the couples. Regarding families, I think there might be an opportunity moving forward to, whether it comes from event sponsorship or some other budget pool, to focus a little bit more on physical permanent structures rather than one-off events that could potentially go away, even if that means using an entire lump sum amount to install some physical thing that benefits families and kids so that we have something to do that's not an event. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, and that would probably come from Scott's office would be community development. That would not be T-bid money, but we can help promote that for sure. But our T-bid dollars are specific to promote marketing for tourism and hotel room stays. We can't do infrastructure for the city.
And my only thought, I think you've nailed it as far as what I see, as far as what, the groups that, who we attract. And I don't know if we could begin, like you put the passport, the kids' passport together, which was really good. But any media that would help people understand, again, we're trying to get multiple night stays, our average stay up, and just give them a whole roadmap for things. Day 1, you can do this with the kids. Day 2, you can do this with the kids. Day 3, you can do this. and that's one thought, and to attract that group in particular. And then my other thing is, and again, it's out of our control, but what's going to make people stay longer is if there are more fun things to do. And I just don't know how you make that happen. That's based on private enterprise and someone wanting to come in and create those activities and those, amusement parks and those whatever you, and I'm not proposing we do an amusement park here necessarily.
No, I'm with you. I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, but I think we can do so much from the T-bid as far as getting that information out there, and I think by creating these kind of roadmaps for what to do as a couple or what to do as a family might be a way of advertising and getting people to stay longer. But at the end of the day, we need more things to do here that attract people.
Yeah.
So.
Stephen?
I think there might be available activities that we could market to a younger generation where we don't have to build something, stand-up paddle boarding, mountain biking, things that are already there, but we kind of tweak it a little bit so we're attracting more families and younger guests. It's an idea.
I was going to point out that, one of the things that I think is a strength of Morro Bay specifically, besides the recreational opportunities, is we have a fantastic variety of restaurants, I believe. And I think that market is you constantly see new ones popping up and old ones that weren't successful dying out. And it's just a constantly changing market, which is exciting to young people. When I travel, I like seeing that there's new things popping up all the time, new restaurants to try and stuff like that. Food is like in my top 3 things I'm looking at to do when I travel. And when I create travel packages for our program, for the kids, that's what I talk about. I talk about the things we're going to go do, I talk about the things we're going to see, and I talk about the food we're going to eat. And I think advertising our restaurant industry and the variety of restaurants and the changing restaurants is part of our marketing draw. So I would say, besides recreation and besides leisure, the food is such a big advertising opportunity here.
On the thought for food, I know Shannon has worked really hard this last year to reach out to the restaurants and bug them until she can get like specialty menus and for holidays and different things. And it's pulling teeth. I can tell you it's difficult. But and same thing with the passports, getting all the restaurants and the passports. But I think, we're making a lot more headway than we did 12 months ago. A lot more headway.
On your comment, since these are businesses, restaurants are businesses, working with the chamber is a great opportunity on this because the chamber should already be doing a lot of that legwork, and it's more their responsibility to do that legwork. So, we have some really cool vegan and alternative. We have Shine Cafe kills it, and we have a new one. Goddess Goods is coming up on the Embarcadero. That's going to be really interesting to see take off. There's variety, and I think that the chamber should know about that already. So working with them on the restaurants would be a smart move.
And just any free reciprocal relationships we can have with the new Morro Bay website and any participating businesses so that businesses that do participate are rewarded, even though it doesn't cost us a penny.
I think that's a really good point, and they're also in our visitor guide for free as well.
And isn't the new contractor for the website that we just recommended, they have the ability to make our website pay, like people could advertise on
Monetized, right?
Right, it's monetized. So that might be an idea, like involving restaurants to monetize on our website. Like where restaurants could pay for ads on our website. That's a great idea. We're benefiting in 2 ways that way.
So I have talked with Simpleview about that, and that was one of the key items that we put into year 2 that we would look at doing, not for this initial push. This initial first push will be all free listings. But he has done that with several destinations, and it's done well for them.
Yeah, especially like restaurants, such a competitive market where things die and succeed so rapidly. Advertising would be a really motivation. Very motivated. They're very motivated to advertise, I would think.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, so I want to talk about events a little bit. I think that as a board that we've done a really great job this last year, really getting out of our comfort zone and looking at new opportunities and seeing if we can grow, like you were saying, Maggie, how do we grow fun things to do in Morro Bay? And I think there's some stuff that's been successful and there's some that were not as successful. And obviously all of these will depend on the general funds that are allocated into our budget this next year. My gut is that we're not going to have the allocation that we're hoping for, just based on where the city sits and what they're looking at. I don't know what that'll be, but I think we should know fairly soon. Some of the interesting things that I want to mention on the events, we have 3 events this year that were from the high school. High school fills really good rooms. I mean, they do really, really good with their sporting events for filling rooms. It was interesting for sales tax driving businesses. The individual sports did not move restaurants. So like the wrestlers stayed at the high school, where the team sports went out and they actively were at the restaurants. So it was just kind of an interesting persona to see. I mean, bottom line, they all filled rooms, so I'm thrilled with either way. But I just thought it was kind of an interesting just point for you guys.
It'll be interesting this year with us adding this fantastic pool facility, which we haven't had. I mean, I swim there on Thursday mornings. It is amazing. Like, I swam competitively my entire life, and that's one of the best pools I've ever swam in. And that's a brand new asset that our city owns. And that should be potential pull-in for team sports, or you have water polo, you have diving, you have swimming. This is a brand new asset that we should be marketing and putting dollars into.
Yep, I agree. I think once we get the budget and we know what the general funds are going to be, I'll send out a letter to all the events that we've funded in the past and just let them know kind of where the city sits, so they're aware before it comes time for their event if we're going to be, shorter money or not, and just try to keep them actively involved so it's not a surprise to them. I thought one of the things that we did that was really successful was purchasing the tickets as part of our sponsorship for the avocado margarita, and I definitely thought that was a really good deal. So we purchased 1 ticket for every hotel room, it's roughly 900 tickets, and we had 450 tickets redeemed at the door. Assume everybody that walked through the door probably had somebody else staying with them, most likely in their room, or maybe half. That's pretty good redemption. So they had 2,000 people new this year over last year. They went up to 11,000 people. And I would say, at least 1,000 of those probably were from what we did, at least I'd like to say that, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. I think that's something that we want to look at, that type of thought, that added value for hotel guests. Hotel guests love free, right? They're all about free. What?
Yeah, when I travel and do travel packages, I specifically look at what I'm getting free when I decide where I'm going.
Yep. Any other thoughts on some of those events for me at all, or?
Continue to invest in the Avocado Margarita Festival. That continues to grow. Every year I'm shocked. And I pat them on the back. And, I give a lot of credit to Kyle Womack. I just think she does a fantastic job of that event. And I give a lot of credit to the Chamber of Commerce. They've invested in something that's successful. So I would continue to run with that until it dies.
Absolutely.
And hopefully it never dies. It just gets bigger and bigger. And we
Absolutely.
should try to do whatever that equation is, they should replicate that equation. Mm-hmm. Or we should copy it. You know what I mean? I think that's what you did with the music down at Giovanni thing this year, was some kind of replication. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Good job.
Is the Avocado Festival something we could move into another day? Possibly build a room for a larger crowd and stayovers?
I know that they're looking at that, Ken. Right now they do Taste of the Grove the first night, which is more of a high-end limited. It's like 250 people, and we did sponsor that last year. So that's kind of what they were doing to get that first night room. So one of the things you mentioned, the concerts. I'm not trying to discount what you're saying. I just want to talk about this as a whole. The concerts that we did at the Docks this last year, I thought they were a really great start. I think that it's just momentum that we need to build. I think I'll probably recommend to you guys to not do them this next year, just with budget constraints. But one of the things that I have been talking with Chamber about, going back to Avocado Margarita, and I also want to talk with Harbor Festival, is those 2 events bookend 4 weeks. And they're on that really great parking lot. So is there an ability to build a quality stage there that stays up for the 4 weeks that allows us to have larger concerts in that parking lot on those off weekends, maybe a Friday night and a Saturday night, so you have 2 concerts for 2 different weekends. So I think that's obviously a long-term thought process. Do you like that, Taylor?
I was going to point out that in the event industry, one of the things I've came to learn is that these venues like Avila Beach Golf Resort, when they build a stage and they get all the porta potties and they build the budget and all that for an event, it costs them the same for one day as it does for 3 days, essentially. So when they do like a tequila festival and then they have another thing the next day and then they have the blues festival on the 3rd day, you're looking at like 3 days of events. And that's only that example I'm using right now is one of the few that I've seen where they actually have a Sunday ticket sales that is just as big as a Friday or Saturday ticket sales. And you want to replicate that. And what she's pointing out is when you have the stage already built, you're saving so much money. It's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's essentially what I'm saying with the infrastructure creation. Whether it's semantics or what, in our next contract, there has to be a allowance for us to, whether or not we're constructing the thing, but we're sponsoring the construction of a thing for up to 30 days or up to 6 weeks or whatever that is, so that there is a permanent place to have not only music, but theater or comedy or anything for an extended period of time. So it may not necessarily be a Ferris wheel or a merry-go-round that's there forever, but it's there for 6 weeks in a time where there might not otherwise be people.
Absolutely. And I don't think this is something that'll happen this September, October, just so we're all aware, but I am actively pursuing this. I think there's a really great opportunity there of having a higher caliber stage that we can all use for that 30-day window, and I'm excited about the opportunity. I love the idea of outdoor theater, Sean, because our local theater company is dying to have a bigger presence, and that might be the way to do it. So that's a really great idea. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, and a lot of communities in the summer do outdoor movies, and that's hard for us sometimes because it's foggy and cold. Yeah. Oh, you did try it? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, but again, if you had a stage in that area where you could close it off and have some heaters or whatever, and do it in September and October again, or in the off season to pull in more. Just another idea.
Yeah, the other complication that we have on that is eventually that parking lot will be sold and will be built out, but all the more reason to start getting Harbor Festival and Avocado Margarita to start talking about this. Where do we move those to on a long-term thought, and how does that all work for us, on the greater good for that 30-day window? That's where my head is.
I agree, and I was going to go in a different direction. I wanted to point out that in the last year, we've had a new business come into town that invested a lot of money in their building, the Siren, and I'm in the event industry, and they are just killing it with their music. The amount of quality shows that they have there with big names for a small venue is astonishing. I would love to know how they're doing this. And on top of that, their sales rate for tickets, they're selling out all the time. So not only am I patting them on the back, but I also want to support that, and I also look at it as an opportunity for advertising. I mean, they're investing their money. It's not us investing money. But isn't that an opportunity for us to advertise? Advertising, maybe with the new website, there's an opportunity to say, well, look, this show is coming in. I mean, when, big name acts come to their venue, that's benefit for the whole city, because that's a big name coming into our city.
Totally agreed, Taylor. And I've actually spoken with the owner, and he came out to our concerts on the docks. So he's super interested about looking at those and seeing if there's a way to work with them. And you made me think about the county website. So talking about trying to get exposure to Morro Bay and all those events, the old county site used to have to buy a membership to get on their site, and now you don't. So any business in Morro Bay can have listings on there and put all their events on there. And I've actively talked with them about starting to list all of their concerts on there. So it's small stuff, but I mean, it does all help. So a couple other things. I thought the lighted boat parade, I was thrilled with that. I was thrilled with where Rotary came on board with doing the first night. It was very uncomfortable for them at first, and bringing an event planner was uncomfortable. They kind of felt like city taking over, and they absolutely are thrilled with their event planner. They are totally like on board and thrilled with what she did. And they, in that case, so they had never charged for boats before. They just let anybody come be in the parade. And she put in place a $20, I think it was, fee to be in the parade, and that gave them money to use for other city events, which was really nice. So they paid for our Santa house. So that type of camaraderie, to me, is how we need to grow as a city. The first night, of course, the restaurants sponsored those boats. I would really like to see that grow. I know that we talked about this last year as a board, and there was a little bit of conflict as far as I know. Taylor doesn't want Friday night to be super busy, right? He likes to have the lighted boat parade to himself, but I want it to grow. I want 2-night stays on that, so I'm going to keep pushing that to grow. Citywide yard sale, that hasn't happened yet, but I'm really excited to see how they do it the third day. So what they're doing is they're working with Chamber, and the third day is going to be a sidewalk sale for all the retail. So same with hotels. I mean, hotels, if they've got old stuff that they want to sell, they could do sidewalk sale on Sunday as well for that, which would be pretty cool. So I like that they're trying to grow that as well. Surfboard Art Festival, I know we did their incentive grant, and I'll have Walter come in and hopefully speak next month to that. On his reports to me, it just for rooms it said unable to audit. So that was, that was disappointing for me to see that we don't have really an ability, and I understand why, but there's no way to track through if somebody saw a board and then they booked a room. It's a hard thing.
I was going to comment on that one. That was
Yeah.
one of the grants I've been watching for years because it's such a dynamic event, and Walter's such a powerhouse in this city, just to put it bluntly. I wanted to point out to the public that, our grant money is a feeder money. It's how we're trying to cultivate people and nonprofits and volunteers, and they really need to work with us. I really want to point out that I'm adamant about supporting and not supporting people who don't work with our staff. And if they don't step up and work with our staff, and if all they bring is negative feedback to our staff, then it's not working out. And I have no problem saying no. And not only do I want to say no if it's not successful, but I'm happy to explain why.
And again, I think this year we might get into that position where we really have to look at what events drive rooms, which is too bad, but I think it's where we're going to end up being. The other one that I wanted to talk about real briefly was the Kite Festival that's coming up in a month. So that's coming together really well. I'm happy, again, having an event planner on board with that. I am still short hotel rooms. I've got 13 2-night stays so far. I need to get 2 more hotel rooms for 2-night stays. And then I'll be good with, we bring in the kite flyers for free, basically. We give them their rooms and we pay for their food and they come fly their kites. So it's a good deal for us, but it does take a couple more hotel rooms to fulfill that. So anybody that wants to donate a room, call me. I'll gladly take it. Some other events that came into town. So I really pushed hard on All Out Events. That's the Morro Bay Triathlon to come and bring us a second event because the triathlon does so really well. And so they brought us the overnight triathlon, and talking with them, post-event, she just feels they really picked the wrong time of year to do it, is her gut on it. And I don't know that they will do it again this year, but I know that they were disappointed with the turnout, and the weather just was not cooperating. So she really felt, unfortunately, they just picked the wrong time of year to do it. Any other thoughts for me on events? You guys want to talk about Winterfest? Did you like it? I mean, it had local components along with tourism components, but I was happy overall.
It was all positive feedback as far as I heard
Okay.
and saw. I mean, I went down and witnessed myself.
Yeah. The snow was done for free. Rec department helped put all that out at no cost, and they really stepped up. So thank our rec leader, Kurt Carmichael, for that. Looking at, if you want to talk about the event budget, we can. It's in your packet. I mean, it's all funds that you guys approved, so I don't know that we really need to go through it, but it is in there. I want to talk about added value, and this is where I'm really looking for input from you guys on what worked, what do we need to change, what good or bad about them. I'm totally open to hear anything. Shannon works really hard to put the passports together, and she like literally stands at everybody's doors until they give her offers. It's really interesting. And it was kind of interesting because last year the kids' passport was just a test to see how it did. This year it was a solid book that did pretty well. I think that we need to change it for next year is my gut, and I'm not sure how that looks. I don't really have my head around it. I'd love thoughts from you guys, but I'm almost thinking it'd be nice to have more retailers involved. Maybe it's like a scavenger hunt where they have to fill out the passport all the way through, and then at the end they go maybe to the shell shop and get a really nice, little thing of shells or something. The way the kids' passport works right now is the one thing that we financially provide is we do the free kite at the Kite Surrey shop. And the problem that we have is he's closed 2 days a week. So we've had challenges with redemption on that. And the redemption is not really high on the kites, which I'm really surprised. I thought they'd be high for kids. But, I mean, I walk by the shell shop all the time, and it's always slammed. So maybe we need to look at rechanging that a little bit and...
So Jennifer, I have a question about the passport. So do we pay for so Shannon spends her time getting the people to contribute the items and we pay for that? And do you think that increases overnight stays, or is it just a bonus for people who show up? Like, do you think it actually drives people coming? I love the idea, but who it seems to me ultimately benefits are those businesses. And my question is it driving overnight stays or driving hotel bookings?
It drives site visits. So it drives people to go on tomorrowbay.org.
Okay.
And I can pull those numbers and we can maybe look at the passports as a whole for next year. But it definitely, for what we spend on it, it drives people over to our site pretty significantly. Mm-hmm. People want free stuff at hotels.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
That is the bottom line. They want added value.
And then can you track once they're on the site, and maybe not today, but maybe in our new one, to be able to say, well, they looked at the free passport and then they said, yeah, that looks good, and they clicked over to look at lodging?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And are these only available at hotels, or can they pick them up at the Chamber or visit SloCal or other places?
So it is for hotel guests, so you do pick it up at your hotel. I have them at the visitor center, so if somebody comes in, we do give them to them, because I don't want to ever be restrictive that way, but they are really for hotel guests, yeah.
So it seems like if they were elsewhere outside of Morro Bay, then it may be more beneficial to hotels than actually being in the room, if we're trying to drive heads and beds, if that's
Right.
following your
That was
logic.
kind of my point is it seems like a bonus if you've decided to come and stay anyway, but my question is how much is it actually driving new bookings?
So
or
what are you thinking,
additional-
Sean? Tell me again.
I'm saying that here's all these offers to come to Morro Bay, and it's clearly helping these businesses if they're already in Morro Bay at a hotel receiving this. But if this was everywhere outside of Morro Bay on a newsstand or wherever, then someone might actually pick this up and say, hey, I might want to stay in a hotel room in Morro Bay, as opposed to the people that already are. Because the offers themselves seem nice, but maybe not necessarily driving business.
The main drive is on the website.
Yeah, the
Is
main drive is
the
the site,
passport
for
push on the site, and that is not enough. What I'm getting at, I think, is we like this, it works, but is there a way to get it out more than just the website and at check-in?
For in terms of auditing, I think maybe they're down the road. Maybe if we have passport type things that to redeem, we actually have them type in a code or something on morrowbay.com or org, so that there's a little bit better tracking and we can see that there's actual tangible website benefit to hotel rooms. Or you were going to kind of respond to that?
So we do have that. We set up a landing page for any offer we do. And so we can track when they see our little ad that says come to Morro Bay and get $100 on food offers. They they click through that, and we can see we have a landing page that clearly shows who has come through. Still have the same problem once they go to Jackrabbit and now they go to La Serena. I can't tell if they booked a room.
Yeah.
I just don't have that ability, but I can totally see if they came on because of the passport, Sean. We can set up mobile apps where people can just have the passport coupons on their app, or they can download it off the website. I don't see how that's going to benefit hotels. Maybe I'm being naive, but I don't see how. All I see that is benefiting the retailer, not the hotels.
How does someone, maybe I'm missing something, how does someone get from this passport to the Morro Bay website? They're just going to Google?
So our ads that we run on Adara and Ad Taxi, So right now, our spring passport that you have, all the ads say, come stay in Morro Bay and you get this added value passport. That's what the ad physically says. So when they click on that ad where we're physically promoting that passport, it links them over to our site.
I see. So it's the advertising for the passport that gets people to the website. The passport itself is static, and they just get it when
Right.
they're in the hotel room. Okay.
Right. So, we print like 8 or 10,000, is that right, of the passports right now, which, it's not a huge amount of money for us, but it is money out of our budget, and we don't charge the retailers right now. Maybe another year down the road, possibly we can get them involved financially. I think we're still baby stepping into that. I'm finally getting really strong offers, which I'm thrilled about compared to last year. One of the things that Shannon and I were talking about yesterday is it's a huge amount of time for her to get these offers. And like the problem that we had with the spring one is getting them on time. It was just really, really challenging to get people to give us offers, by mid-February. And here we were coming into March and we still didn't have the books printed, which was just driving me crazy. So I was talking to Shannon about maybe we need to do like an overall sheet that clearly outlines, now that we've gone through a whole year of these, here's the passport, the dates, when they're due, if you want to offer, and send it out probably in May this year before summer, because during summer, retailers don't even talk to us. And make them respond if they want to be in any of those passports and what their offer is going to be. And so it's already pre-booked, and we have it all, hopefully most of it set. And that might help relieve some of our stress of trying to fill the book. Does that make sense?
There might also be an opportunity if you wanted to reduce 10 options down to 1 monthly option or 3 quarterly options. So then it's like, all right, the Yoga Center Morro Bay is partnering with hotels this month, or whoever it is, and so that becomes the offer for that month, and that retailer can try it out, and they're an exclusive partnership, whether it's just 1 or 3 choices, so that we leave some flexibility open to the guests, as opposed to like 10 couple dollar off type things. So maybe there's a little bit more of a connection. Part of the reason I bring up yoga is that yoga, gym, pool, and other activities like that that may encourage a second or third day stay as opposed to a cookie may be a little bit more valuable to hotels.
Love the idea. So from my hotel experience, you really need to have a passport that's at least over $60 to incentivize a visitor. So you'll notice this one does not have a dollar amount on the front because the total dollar is not high enough. And so that's why we did not advertise the dollar, where if you look at the other ones, we have a dollar value on the front. So if I have just one offer, Sean, I don't think it'll incentivize a stay as far as people clicking over. They want to see, I'm going to get, restaurant offers up to $100. They want to see those big dollar numbers that they're getting against a hotel room stay. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Hoteliers, yeah. Thoughts? Stephen, how does it work for you guys? Public comment? Yeah. You want to do public comment maybe, Charlie?
Well, open it to public comment.
Christina in the audience is head of marketing and community relations for our business, so she's really interacting with the businesses and the passport and things like that.
Hi guys. I'm Christina Schollers. So with the passports, I feel like they're very successful. I actually went to Sun and Buns and talked with her, and she said she counted 64 redemptions. For her, she understood that some people didn't like coffee and cookies, so she would exchange it for like 2 ice cream cones. So she was willing to adjust it for the business. So it seems like it's working. I think I remember I started with a kid passport, and I thought that one was great. I use the passports as a great resource to kind of get a conversation going with the hotel people, just to figure out what their idea is, what are they looking for, if they're here for their first time or if they've been here multiple times. And if they've been here multiple times, then it's like, oh, well, this is new, check it out. I feel like it's a great way for us to push businesses, just kind of introducing new businesses to some of these guests that have been here multiple times and giving them ideas of where to go. One of my examples was there was a group of 6 people when we had the bird event. I'm so sorry, I can't think of the correct name. But there were 6 people. There were big groups that had came to our hotel. And so I told them, oh, well, look, Windows on the Water has a great deal in the Passport. So they went there and realized they all didn't get entrees. So they didn't get the deal, but they were just happy with going to the restaurant. So I know that the Passport may not always be used, but it's a great starting point for us to talk with our guests to figure out what they want, what they're looking for, and at least get them going to some of these businesses. So I think that's it. Okay.
Thank you.
It's still pretty new, I think this is about a year and a half into it, so it's still pretty new and growing, but I want to keep going.
It's something that we pass out at check-in, and it's just one of those smiley face thing we get to talk about Morro Bay and the cool things to do and go out and try. And at check-in, it's just one of those, here you go, here's some fun places to go. So I like it.
Yeah.
And it can only get better.
Okay. So, other added value, as you as a board approved the wine promotion for next September, October, which I'm super excited about. I still need to do my RFP. I just have not had time to do it, but I'm excited about that, and I think the wine offers have done really well. The impromptu wine offer that we did for Valentine's Day, it was bad oversight on my part that I didn't realize Valentine's Day was falling on a Wednesday, but I really appreciate you as a board picking that up quickly and approving us to do that, and I'm thrilled with the response we got. We got about 100 redemptions, so it actually was under budget. I think we had budgeted 4,000 for redemptions, and we had about 1,500. So financially, we were good on that. And we had about, I would say, let's see, I wrote down 234 rooms were booked before we started the promotion. Then we closed out at 327. So pretty good for a Wednesday night. I was happy with that. I did have one hotel call me and say, why aren't you doing a 2-night stay? I just think it's a really difficult thing when you're looking at a Wednesday. I was driving more local county people that were trying to just get away for a quick overnight and have a little fun with their sweetheart for Valentine's Day is where my head was on it. You guys are happy with all that? Mm-hmm. Yeah? Okay. Let's talk about morrobay.org and some stuff that Shannon's been working on. So we do the weekly e-blasts, and we also do the blogs. So Shannon does the blog really actively. It gets a little monotonous to try to find something new to write about every single week. So I think she's doing a great job. If you guys think of any topics, please email them. No, there's no topic that's too silly or strange. I mean, we always need new content, and it literally is a challenge to come up with a different way to talk about The Rock every week. So anything you guys can think of, we would really appreciate. This is one of those areas talking about staffing where if we are coming into an event like the Leprechaun Crawl this week, it's one of the things that unfortunately has to fall off. And I think we've probably missed, since she started it last July, maybe 3 weeks. Is that right? Or so? I mean, so we've been pretty consistent, but it is one of those things, if we are just don't have the staff hours, we have to put it aside for that week.
Yeah.
But I think it's done really well. The e-blasts, so the e-blasts are still not tracking as high as I would like. The open rate is running a little over 15%. I would really like to see that higher. And that'll be part of what we do with our new contract with our new agency next year as well. So right now that's just done in-house. That's always been done in-house. Our list is about 20,000 people actively, 20 to 22,000 just depending on the day of the week. So any thoughts on our e-blasts or the new template that we have? No? You guys.
I read the stuff that's not super long. And as far as the blog goes, I'm going to go back to my restaurant thing. I think the restaurants are a big pull, and restaurants are always changing and very dynamic, because not only is it a hard industry to stay in and be successful in, but also they're constantly changing what they're offering as far as food goes. And when you look at our city as having a fishing industry, some restaurants on the Embarcadero, I'm not going to say who, have seafood that is not local. They're buying totally frozen food from Alaska or Cape Cod or whatever, and some of them do buy local. So I think that you should celebrate the ones that are doing local and not talk about the ones that aren't doing local.
also dealing with the blog, as someone who's run some before, I know it takes forever. And we had the most success by having a kind of like a adopt a week type guest blogger, and so that it takes it out of staff's hands and says, all right, it's Morrow Rock Coffee this week. What's your entry? They submit 250 words or whatever it is, and you have an opportunity to maybe comment on it or write a little summary of what Morrow Rock Coffee is, and there's 52 entries right there. And you could actually schedule it out so that they all submit. Let's say that everyone has to submit by April 30th or September 1st or whatever it is. Then you have all 52 there ready to go, and you can schedule them all out without having to do much.
It's a really cool idea. Maybe to take it one step farther, Sean, maybe it's more of activities or the state park people that'll be more about the destination versus, on a blog site, I don't want people to think we're selling them directly. I want it to be a little more fluid and subtle. Yeah, I think that's why blogs do well. But it's such a great idea, Sean. Thank you.
I think it could be an opportunity for nonprofits also to blow their horn and get attention and come up with content. So,
Totally agree. I love it. Absolutely love it.
I keep saying it.
Actually, I like the idea of nonprofits.
Yeah.
And Charlie's got one in mind, I know, but I think that could be a positive step in the blog because there's a lot of things that affect the community in a positive way.
Yep.
I think now the Maritime Museum that's going up, so that could be one.
Yeah, I think it's a really great idea, and that would definitely take some stress off our shoulders too, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't. I think he made a great point. Like, it's just add more content that she could work with. I mean, God, having to come up with all of the blogs just out of your brain is a giant thing on your plate. But if you're able to have other people do a ton of legwork, I mean, that really is going to cut down on the amount of time you need to spend on it. Plus, it's going to add to your success at the content.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's talk about our destination organizations that we work with, SlowCal, Visit USA California, and CCTC. So we talked a little bit about the SlowCal site and their new site. It's also managed and created by SimpleView. I didn't know if you guys knew that, so that's kind of a nice thing. If you're on their site, you'll notice how it works. One of the interesting things that I'm just getting my feet around on their site is they now have this section, so everybody can set up an account. You don't have to be a member. And then you'll get requests. It's called a service request. Sounds like you're hiring a plumber or something, but it's called a service request. And if you click on it, it'll show you they're looking for 2-night stay, or they're looking for dinner for two for an incoming journalist or a blogger or all different people. So those are really nice to look at and see if it's somebody that you're interested in hosting. So the way their new site is set up, those have to be done individually by the restaurant retailers or hotels. So I'm trying to facilitate them and call people and let them know that these are actively on there so we're not missing opportunities. I'm not sure how that's really going to work. Like the galley is a really good example. We send most of our journalists to the galley that are really high-end journalists. So we have a journalist coming from Condé Nast, we're sending them to the galley. But on the new site, the galley is supposed to go on there and say, yes, I want this opportunity, and they're supposed to set up their thing. They don't have a computer at their restaurant. I mean, that's like the farthest thing that they're from. I mean, usually they'll take a photo of the receipt and send it to Liz or Shannon for us to pay against. So, I mean, we're a small destination. I see some challenges where that comes in, and so we're just going to have to stay really on it. But it's kind of interesting. I think their new site is interesting. We'll see how it all works out. Visit California, I already talked about them a little bit. I'm very excited about what they're doing with India and China as well, and we'll stick really close with them. Also, for SlowCal, we're in the IPW booth for SlowCal, so we have that coming up in May, which is really nice. CCTC, at this point, I go to their meetings, I go to their board meetings and their planning sessions. They've asked me to be on the board. I have not done that at this point. I would probably want to talk with city manager and see how he feels about that. I haven't done it just from the aspect that we are shorthanded internally, and I don't feel that it would be a good use of my time, but I just don't feel like I have the time or the ability to do it right now. But at some point, I think that would be a nice thing to do, is to get on their board and be a little more active with what they do. we did pick up their cover for their upcoming map, which comes out really soon, and that's a huge thing for us, so I'm thrilled about that. Anything that you guys are not getting or seeing from any of the extended DMOs that I need to work on or anything? Happy? Wow. They'll love to hear that. PR, we can talk about PR a little bit. So Shanna is actively working with Mental Marketing to bring in and host their journalists that come in, and we set them up in hotel rooms with a nice little welcome, bag with stuff in it for Morro Bay. And I think that the exposure that Mental has gotten for us is tremendous. I mean, I think the PR level that they're getting is much stronger than we've had in the past, and I'm thrilled with the amount of exposure that they're getting. One of the things that's not totally PR related, but kind of in a way, is the Film Commission. So the Film Commission, which is county, is actively always looking for locations. And actually Friday, Shannon's going out with the Film Commissioner. There's a group that's coming into town, and they're looking for locations to shoot at. They're actually looking for a roller rink, so that's why they called Morro Bay. So Shannon's going to go out and show them a couple different wooden floor kind of venues and see if we can capture them. What we're trying to do to kind of expand that PR side is actively one of us go out with the Film Commissioner so that if they do decide to shoot here, we can also capture those rooms, which has not been happening. What's been happening is they might come in and shoot here in Morro Bay, but they might stay at Embassy Suites in SLO. So we're trying to keep that connection and try to capture the room side of that as well. But I think there's a huge opportunity with the Film Commission from a PR exposure side. We don't have a lot of locations listed on their website. They've got a location finder on their site where you can put in buildings or houses or anything of interest. We've got all of our, typical Morro Bay stuff, but I would love to get more exposure from a PR side on the Film Commission's website. Otherwise, I think we're doing good on PR. Anyone? No?
I just want to say good job. I think Mental Marketing's really pushed hard, and I know that it's one of those things. Editorial's better than advertorial, but they've been able to get it out, and a lot of it's this PR push.
Yep, I agree.
I've got kind of just a
Sure.
strange question, but the cartoon or the movie that came out a couple years ago, Finding Dory, did we proactively go after that, or did we just kind of stumble into that?
I'll give you the synopsis. So that all happened before I was here, just so you're aware. And so Mental Marketing was involved with that with the Tourism Bureau. And Disney came up and said, you have an open book to say Morro Bay is the home of Dory, which was huge from a PR side. It was absolutely huge. So Mental was running with that. And the Tourism Bureau got a little sideways with Disney, unfortunately. And Disney said, you cannot use that title anymore. Cut us off. It was really upsetting, Stephen. So at that time, the city manager sent a letter to one of the head executives at Disney and tried to repair the relationship. And Disney just said, at this point, we just want to postpone on you using that, which was really too bad. But, the Disney movies last forever, so I think there is a point where we'll go back in and go after that again, give them maybe a couple more years. Bummer, huh?
Yeah, maybe when we get that new aquarium.
Good point. That might be a really good time to go after it. Trying to make me cry. So let's talk about KPIs and what we need to do next year going forward, if there's anything we want to change. Or KPIs are a difficult thing, but let's talk through them and see what we can kind of come up with. So the STAR report that I have on there, I just wanted to put this on there again and show you guys there's huge growth, but the huge growth from cities is because they've added rooms. So, I mean, if you hear negativity about why is Pismo growing, you have to remind hoteliers that they've gained not only 100 plus rooms, but they've gained beachfront 100 plus hotel rooms. I mean, it's going to change their ADR, it's going to change everything, and it's good for them. It's not great for us, and they're going to get good PR out of it too. So We just have to be prepared for that.
I think one or two small boutique hotels are in the planning pipeline, or probably even more than that. Does TBID have any role in that, or not until they get their business license and are open for business, then we come into play?
Yeah, we really don't, Sean. There's a couple that are planned on the waterfront. So the biggest thing is they have to go through Coastal Commission, and that is really significant time-wise. But there are 2 hotels that are planned on the waterfront, and then the one that's currently being built across from next door to Frankie and Lola's as well. Those are all boutique hotels, and that'll be really huge for us. But we won't see them on board for probably 12 to 24 months at least.
And then, to what extent is TBID involved in other city department progress that then would lead to tourism benefits? One thing that comes to mind as an example is having a continuous waterfront. These are big picture questions, but being able to walk physically from north to south in Barcadero around each of these structures, that there's a lot of foot dragging on a lot of these repairs, and I'm not sure what, if any, role TBID could play in actively pushing for some of these things to happen, whether that's us or staff or what. That it would just make such a big difference from a tourism perspective if, for example, you could walk around Great American Fish Company, as one potential example, and those add up, and it's just kind of an intangible thing that I don't know what role, if any, we can play, but it might not be nothing.
So, good question. It's a little difficult question. Obviously, I don't have any say in construction or what people are doing, but I know that they are very focused on that harbor walk, and they are requiring any upgrades to add that. So like behind Gray's Inn, that's one of the things that they're dealing with right now, is they want to make some changes at their hotel, and they're going to have to deal with adding the harbor walk there. So it's a little complicated, but I don't know about like GAFCO until they make a change in the facility or the leaseholder changes, which those are long-term leases. I don't know how that works, Sean, exactly. I'm not sure. But something that we are actively involved in is there is an executive committee that's been put together. It's myself, Scott Collins, the city manager, Scott Graham, who's community development, Erica Crawford from the chamber, and Eric Endersby. And we meet pretty often and talk about economic development and what's going on and how do we, grow things. And yeah.
That, first of all, that's an all-star committee, and second of all, if there's any benefit to having TBID write some sort of collective letter once a year or something to encourage or promote a handful of small projects that will make a big difference for the city, even if it's just in form, I think it would go a long way towards pushing people a little bit.
I think you have a really good idea, and maybe I need to be more actively involved with the chairman and tell you, let's get a letter out for this potential hotel that's trying to come in town. I think it's a really good idea, and I can do that, not a problem. Do you want to take a quick break while we wait for Taylor, or you want to keep moving? So have quorum? Okay. Okay. So let's talk about KPIs. So I know there was some discussion at the annual meeting about how the KPIs are listed, and they weren't really happy with how I was showing the 6-month review. What I was really trying to show more than anything was with Highway 1 being closed, that we do still have the growth. Even though Highway 1 is closed, it's not as strong, but I mean, it is significant growth, which is, to me, is really good considering the situation. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on the KPIs and how they're working and what am I missing or what needs to be changed on a go forward. Anything? Taylor, do you have any thought on KPIs at all? No?
a simple design thing on the 2018, because again, there were questions about 2016, 17, 18, what's 6 months, what's a year. I think can be made a lot clearer what if a bar graphic means if a certain bar is a full year, or if you just kind of dull half of it so that we know it's a 6 month plus a projection.
That's a good idea. It's matching the same 6 months, but we can put 15, 16, 16, 17. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. It is a little confusing.
Just a little confusing
Yeah.
the way that it is, that's all.
So if you look at the very bottom one, the unique website visitors, Marianne did have stats are year over year from July 1 to February 21st, but she has it on actually the last three for Jackrabbit as well. She should have put it on all of them. But either way, I think we need to clearly state the years are like 17, 18, 16, 17. Yeah, okay. Some more things on as far as the paid media impressions. So let's talk about the Bay Area a little more. I know that we want to look at that financially and how that runs. I think I'm probably going to go ahead and put into place and move some money immediately and see if we can get some traction on that. The Bay Area is just really difficult financially. I mean, it's just so expensive. But I do think there is one of the interesting things that happened after the 6-month meeting was we had some phone calls with Santa Barbara after that, and talking with them, they have moved all of their money off of Southern California, which I was really shocked by. Yeah, they just, with their whole situation, they've moved it all Valley and Northern California, and they've moved off of there. And that actually came through Adaris, who told us that. So I thought that was just really insightful. Because of their situation with their hotels and the 101 being closed at that time. Yeah.
Just temporarily, they moved it off, or?
I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know. That's more insight than they were going to tell us.
Yeah.
I was happy just to hear that. I just thought it was very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Santa Barbara tourism pushing really hard. Yeah,
Granted, their budget is like $27 million or something absurd.
They've got a huge, $30 million budget. But they are really pushing the NorCal market.
Yeah.
Santa Barbara is really hard pushing on it.
So, anyway. You guys have any thoughts for me on KPIs? Anything better we can do? I like the idea of changing the bars, but anything else you guys can think of? The big question is, how do we attach it to bookings? And I know Adara is actively trying to put something together on that, but I haven't seen anything on it yet.
I was just going to briefly point out that my company, the company I work for, we just are really focusing more on the Instagram model with our young adults than the Facebook model. Our young adults continually give negative feedback on Facebook. Mostly it's a personal thing. So many of our, basically 15 to 28-year-old age group, which is the majority of our demographic, have really negative feedback on Facebook and huge positive feedback on Instagram. Relatively no care for Twitter. And I think that what I look at when I'm looking at it as like a teacher is providing information about your life more through pictures and video, which we know is true with the market, versus providing information about yourself and your life through words, which is more what like Facebook and Twitter is about, is like telling a story. Whereas Instagram is much more about, it's a picture profile. You have a picture and then you have a certain number of words you can put with that picture, but really the input is a photo or a video. And our Snapchat focus has just skyrocketed. The amount of focus now put into not only the actual Snapchat application, but the Snapchat portion of Instagram now has become really popular, which is very interesting. So now for me, I'm spending so much more time watching their little Snapchat videos versus watching their Instagram profile, because I have some students who I'm getting one photo a month from on their Instagram, but they're doing 15 videos a day on their little Snapchat part of Instagram, which is only available to you for 24 hours. So realize that these young adults, they don't want you to see their life
indefinitely. They want you to see a moment and have it be gone, because that's how fast everything is. That's the future they're in. Everything's today. Maybe I don't feel like that tomorrow. I don't want you to know about my life, how I felt yesterday, which I find fascinating. And also, I'm working with it. You know what I mean? Okay, it changes how I teach. So that's my feedback.
I've mentioned this a couple times before, but I still think there's an opportunity for us to seek out influencers and compensate them at a very low dollar amount out of our budget to organically mention us in some, whether it's in photo or text. And so if we seek out people, local people, or influencers in our major markets that have, let's say, over 1,000 followers, which is a lot of people, and it doesn't take very much compensation, if at all, to mention us. It probably doesn't require any free room stays or anything like that, though it could if we had an influencer that was a 50,000 follower type person. And these are just regular people that are looking for freebies and handouts and have no problem pulling a little Caitlyn Jenner and tweeting about Morro Bay, for example. If Caitlyn Jenner tweeted about Morro Bay, then we're set for a year.
So I like both the ideas. So going back to your thought, Taylor, and your explanation of people being so instantaneous in a way.
Realize that my comments are focused about that certain demographic.
Absolutely.
That's the demographic I work with. I have very few people over 35 years old.
Totally
that I'm working
agree.
with.
I totally hear you, but I just wanted to say something kind of interesting because I don't know if you remember the Adara description that we had shown and it's in your 6-month packet. It shows the call to action from when they are booking, they're looking to book versus advanced purchase versus searching to departure. It's significantly decreased this year. There being more that instant thought pattern, which is kind of interesting. You're right, your demographic is younger. But what I've noticed is Instagram seems to be getting that mom that's traveling now, and it's getting a little older. And I'll be really interested to see as we do our new marketing plan for next year, they'll look at all the demographics and how literally that's changed this year. And I'll be really interested to see how that looks.
I on that comment, what's interesting for us is that a lot of parents, when they're trying to find out about what their kids are doing with us or what we're doing with their kids, now we have all these people have now realized that we're not posting stuff on Facebook. So they're like, well, where is the data that I want to see? And so they're coming to Instagram. So I'm seeing all these new, every day we're getting these new followers that we're like, basically everybody thought Facebook where was it at, and it's not where it's at for us. So it's interesting you say that. We do see a rapid increase all of a sudden in our Instagram followers with the older.
Yep. And for what we do, it'll all be based on numbers. We'll look at, how do their numbers fall out compared to Facebook. And Travis Ford does a really great job at analyzing all that. And so we'll get a really good analyzed report from him on how to go forward on that. So let's go over the budget and kind of where we stand to date. I know there was some questions about, and this goes back to the resolution of actually our resolution and what is included or not included. And Jennifer Callaway got up and talked about that a little bit. I know that her and Scott Collins are looking at that. The resolution has a statement about utilities and IT and counting. Right. Right, so they are aware of all that, and they're looking through that. So hopefully next month when we do our annual budget review, we'll have an answer for you guys, okay? So otherwise on the budget, I didn't know if there's any other questions that you had for me. It's pretty lean. I mean, we stay pretty lean. We have very little expenses that are unusual. The collateral promotion pieces, that's our visitor guide, and all our passports, that's a little high. Community event support, that's, is what it is.
At the time of the meeting, a couple of the totals didn't add up, and
Yes.
I think they've since been corrected.
They have been corrected. That was my mistake.
So are these manual entries and not an actual spreadsheet, logistically?
This was at this
Okay.
time, yes.
Okay, because you were doing it, not finance?
So she gave me so that what they had to do, so it's a little confusing. These categories do not match up to the city categories that we bill under. Just so you understand, they like kind of do this. So Jen Calloway had to take like the 3 different categories that equaled different things and kind of analyze them and put them together under one category for me. And she just is really, really over her head with stuff. She's got so much going on. So she just gave me a manual. Here's the totals for each category, and we just input them in my office just so we could make our deadline. It's unusual, Sean. We usually don't do that, but we were just short on time.
So moving forward, we compare our categories with their categories, I'm guessing, so that we don't have to do this every year?
I don't know. I don't know if
Okay.
they will switch those categories or not.
Or we can switch
Probably not.
ours
Their
to
general,
match theirs.
their general ledger entries, so I doubt they'll change them.
Can we switch ours to match theirs?
Probably.
That would
Yeah.
seem to make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just throwing it out there.
So one of the things that for our next contract, the agency fees, they didn't have a negotiated rate in there for what they had on markup. They had full 15% markup. So that will be one thing that I'll be looking at when we look at the new contracts and new possibility of who we're going to use. So that'll help that number come down a little bit and more money into our paid media budget. Otherwise, I'm feeling pretty comfortable with where it all stands. Any questions? No? Wow, you guys are so quiet. You're done with me, huh? So new for 18-19, we've got the wine promotion, which we talked about. The bottle, that's a bottle for any 2-night stay, which will be co-opt with a wine merchant. I also got to meet, luckily, with Paso Wine Alliance a couple days ago, and she's very interested in sponsoring that as well. So that might help that financially as well, which I'm excited about that. But I will put $12,000 in my budget for that allotment for September, October, either way. Rebuilding the website, we're in the middle of, same with the RFP. So I have if you remember, I have a subcommittee that's been put together for reviewing the RFPs. Those all went out to that group yesterday, and they have a couple weeks to review them. It includes 2 of our board members as well. And then we will get together at the end of March and pare that down to a group of 5 to come back in and look at more stuff. Good? And then the cover, obviously, for CCTC. Anything else? You like my graphic for our team? I'm just thrilled that we're coming together as a community. I mean, honestly, that's what it's about for me.
I'm also really liking the CCTC map that's distributed in the California Visitor Center with
Isn't that amazing?
the Mora Rock right front and center. That's really a great thing for us all.
You know what's really amazing about Charlie is the highest used California Visitor Center is the one in Pismo Beach. And I love that. 250,000 maps will be printed and handed out. It's good. If there's nothing else I can answer, we can go on to future agenda items.
Calling for any future agenda items.
I would like to propose that at some point soon we talk about our staffing and the potential of having more people on staff be full-time.
I also think, and this is something that I brought up before, is compensation and benefits, I think, need to be really reviewed for the staff as well.
And we also need to have a future agenda item for electing new chairman and vice
So
chairman.
we'll be calling for nominations for chair and vice chair for our next meeting.
I've got something I'd like to speak with my colleagues about at a future meeting, I suppose, is the appropriate way to do it. But I had a conversation with the city about the idea of reallocating some funds, with the priority being on the Esplanade area infrastructure improvements. And obviously, the debate would be, does an improved Esplanade help all the hotels? I mean, some hotels are obviously closer to the water geographically, right? Is that the primary place where the tourists are going, thus it helps us all? Or does that unfairly help some of the hotels that are closer to the water? And I would just like to have that kind of conversation so we're somewhat on the same page here.
That might be a really good conversation to have also with Scott Graham, since he's working on the general plan update, because the Embarcadero change, that he has a lot to do with that as well, and maybe we look at that in May. I would have to talk with him first and see when he's available, but I think he would be a really good person to have here and talk about that as well, and maybe Eric Endersby from Harborside.
Yeah, we should invite them. I think that would be a great conversation.
Maybe in May, if they can do May.
I think that's good, Jennifer, but I'd also like to hear the side of the hoteliers as well, right?
So why don't I, for a future agenda item next month, why don't I do just a short questionnaire that I'll bring back to you guys that we can send out to the hotels on this topic? Or I don't even know if we need to agendize it. Maybe I can just do it and send it. I don't know. How does that work, Lori? Can I send it out? Yeah.
With his proposal, do we have like a simple map of where the hotel, like an overview of Morro Bay and where the hotels are? Because I'd like to have one. Because that would be real easy for me to look at and be like, okay, this many hotels are located here, these many hotels are located in this section, this many hotels are located over here in North Morro Bay, and who they are and how many rooms they have. Something real easy.
We have something, I don't know if it's easy, but we do have something like that. And again, Scott Graham's group has divided out the city into 4 categories. And I know they're working closely with Chamber on going out to those different areas and looking at geographically different aspects. But we can maybe pull those as well for that meeting.
If you send out a survey, I'd love to have it be public who responded.
Yeah. I don't think that's a problem. So I will bring a survey next month for you guys to review, okay? And if you have any questions you can think of you'd like on that, please send them to me ahead of time.
If you don't have any other further agenda items, then I am going to call for adjournment at 10:55. And thank you all for attending. Have a great day.
That last part.